Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So I'm so excited today to show everyone the newest CGC 9.8 comic book that I purchased. And it's one that I've recommended quite a bit on the channel lately. So I really love to do that, where I can sort of put my money where my mouth is sort of and buy a book that I've been recommending. Yeah, because usually on those videos where I'm recommending these books, it's because they compare really well and I'm actually seeing that they might be undervalued, so I just want to share it with everyone. So yeah, I really like to, purchase the books that I've been recommending, and this is definitely a case of that. Now, this wasn't the most perfect order ever. I actually had some tariffs that I had to pay at the door, so I'm just kind of, put it on my Visa card kind of thing. And we'll get into sort of all the details, but, I got a decent price for this, but maybe when you throw in those tariffs, maybe a little bit of an overpay, unfortunately. But no need to wait here, so let's get right into it. And yeah, just one I'm really excited to show everyone. And it's a rare book, and it's pretty expensive too, as you'll probably put it in the thumbnail to cost, but it's a Batman Adventures Mad Love that I grabbed. Yeah, CGC 9.8 white pages. Origin of Harley Quinn, second overall appearance of Harley Quinn. And yeah, it's got the classic Paul Dini, Bruce Timm story, and then the Bruce Timm cover and art. And, those are the two sort of Batman animated legends, pretty much. Certainly Bruce Timm. And, much, better cover, I think, than a Batman Adventures 12, personally, but we'll get into some of those details in a sec here. Yeah, on the Census, though, for Batman Adventures Mad Love, Origin of Harley Quinn, great key from 1994, 253 CGC 9.8s in the blue label, so a 1 in 253, which seems like a lot less than you would sort of think, just this being such a collected book and a really wanted book, so I like that. The 17.4% CGC 9.8 ratio, I really like. So of all graded copies, 17.4% of them are CGC 9.8. And for a 90s book, that is just extremely rare. It's a great rarity for a 90s book. There's not a lot of 90s books that I could come up with that are more rare than this, and a lot of them are way more expensive. I actually want to get into some comparisons later where I talk about 3 other 90s books, and just compare this, and I think after those comparisons, you'll know why I think this is kind of a really great value, to be honest. So, yeah, but that 17.4% CGC 9.8 ratio sticks out. Yeah, of all graded copies, only 17.4% of them are CGC 9.8s. So let's talk about price, and I did mention those tariffs, but someone I want to thank really quick is team member Brett. I had purchased this from, it was a My Comic Shop, which is probably everyone might know that eBay store, and they also have an online store. And Brett had kind of reminded me, hey, if you ever want to buy something from My Comic Shop, check out their online store, and it's usually a lot cheaper because it's no fee bay. So that's sort of what happened with this book. It was on eBay for $450, but I ended up buying it on My Comic Shop for $399. So I had seen this go in an auction about 2-3 weeks ago, and it went for $375. One looking, just like this, and maybe this one I think is even looking better, and that's another reason why I was like, $25, who cares? Because this black cover, even some of the CGC 9.8s don't really look very crisp. This one's looking really sharp. It's a perfect copy, and there was good scans, so I could kind of tell that in the pictures, and well worth the extra $25 because, yeah, in an auction, $375 it went for. So when I could get this for $25 more than that with, shipping was $16 to Canada, which anything under 20 is, really great for shipping to Canada with one of these. Okay, so let's get into the tariffs, though. Now, I will say with that My Comic Shop, so I took Brett's advice. I went on their store. I grabbed it on their store for $3.99. There was a 3% fee on that, so $412, I'm going to say, is the kind of price I paid. Tariffs, so after the exchange, we'll exchange it into US dollars, because I always talk US dollars just to kind of keep it easy. It was $27.58 at the door, US dollars, so it ended up being 38 or 37 Canadian. For a grand total, with that 3% fee and the tariffs, $439.58. So $439 isn't sounding as good as $400, and is not really close to that $375. So, maybe a bit of an overpay. But, I think one of the good things about it is this is a pristine copy. Yeah, and with this black cover, some of the 9.8s, you know, I'm not very impressed by them, to be honest. And a lot of times there's like a lot of inner wealth scuffing. This is another book where if the CGC slab is really scuffed, it shows on the black cover. And there's a couple scuffs on this one, but this I'm pretty sure is newly graded. Yeah, it definitely is the new type of case where it doesn't have any kind of a binding type thing on the back to keep the book sort of in one place, like some of the old, newer CGC cases have, I guess you can call it. So I'm pretty sure this was graded in like the last year, let's call it. But I am so excited to have a Batman Adventures Bad Love, looking really crisp too. And yeah, even though maybe a bit of an overpay, I am just, yeah, really happy. It's just, even a book I've got so much pride of ownership already, just looking at it. It's one of those covers, I think, that, you know, maybe it's just the black cover, and it is pretty rare for a 90s book, so you kind of get that rare feeling, and one of 253, so for like such a collected wanted book, I think that's really great. So it looks really great on the Census. So I did mention there, 3 books that I had thought of that I wanted to compare this to in the CGC 9.8, of course. So first one, New Mutants 98. New Mutants 98 has a 20% CGC 9.8 ratio. So out of all graded copies, 20% of them are 9.8s. So this is more rare than New Mutants 98. And, you know, it's not as, obviously it's not a first appearance. It's not as big of a kind of a moment in comics, I think, as first Deadpool. So I'm not saying that this deserves to be like neck and neck with New Mutants 98 in price, but it's more rare than New Mutants 98. That's, you know, a fact. And I mean, even on the Census, there's like 2,000-3,000, I think, maybe, of New Mutants 98s now in the CGC 9.8. For this, there's 253. So a bit of a completely, you know, different type of collector item, but from the same sort of era. And it just illustrates that, yeah, this low CGC 9.8 ratio of 17.4%. The lower, the better. It's even more rare than New Mutants 98 in the CGC 9.8, and New Mutants 98 being $750, let's call it, in the CGC 9.8. I'm grabbing this one for $400. You know, does it deserve that wide of a price discrepancy when this is more rare? I probably don't think so, to be honest. Next book, G.I. Joe Special #1. Another 90s book. I think it's a 95 book, so kind of the year after this one. And New Mutants 98 is like a 91 book, I believe, so... But G.I. Joe Special, the CGC 9.8 ratio on that book is 23.6%. So of all graded copies, 23.6% of them are 9.8. The lower the better. So 17.4% is still, you know, looking better than that G.I. Joe Special book. And, you know, I mentioned this one in the list because that book, it's really tough to get under 500. I'll call it 450 to 500 as a fair value. Maybe, you know, if you're patient, you get it closer to 4. So that's a book that's maybe $50 to $100 more than this book, but not nearly as rare, with 23.6% of all graded copies being 9.8s. This one, only 17.4% of all graded copies are 9.8. So more rare and less price than that book. And the last one here is, you know, a comic book that's actually more rare than this book, but just for context, I wanted to include it. It's Spawn #1 Black and White from 1997. This was like the Spawn #1. McFarlane came out with a reprint of it in black and white with the new cover and everything. So very collected Spawn book. Yeah, one that Spawn collected, and you'll know by the price. But Spawn #1 Black and White from 1997 has a 15.9% CGC 9.8 ratio. So 17.4%, 15.9. It's a little more rare than this book. But in the CGC 9.8, that book's fair market value is about $1,200. So, you know, a book that's a little bit more rare than this book is $1,200, and it's a 90s book. So that's one of the only other 90s books that I could find that's sort of similar rarity to this. There's even like a Malibu Sun is more rare than this as well. Malibu Sun 13, that's another first appearance of Spawn book. And that book is like, yeah, you're looking $800-900 for that. So all books that are more rare than this, but similar rarity, but they're, you know, way higher price, obviously. This one being $400. Spawn #1 Black and White, $1,200 with a similar rarity. So that was the third book I wanted to compare it to. Now, got to do a little bit of talking about Batman Adventures #12. So Batman Adventures number 12 is a great book. It's the first appearance of Harley Quinn. So, if you're the biggest Harley Quinn fan, you probably want to go after Batman Adventures 12, for sure. I'm a big Harley Quinn fan, but not, I don't really feel the need like I have to have something that maybe, the cover of Batman Adventures 12 is pretty, Batgirl's kind of cool and stuff on it, but it's not one that really has stuck out to me, whereas this one really has. It really stood out to me, and I love the Bruce Timm art, and Bruce Timm did Batman Beyond number 1, which is that cover, and was involved in so much, animated Batman, basically, so. But Batman Adventures 12, I want to talk about it because the CGC 9.8 ratio for that book, it's 14.8%, so it's more rare than this book, this 17.4, again, 14.8% for Batman Adventures 12. It's more rare, but, the price shows that. I'm going to say right now the value for Batman Adventures 12, CGC 9.8, a good deal is like $1,600. They've sort of bounced off a bottom where I know I did that one video where I was like, wow, I think one sold for $1,300. Like, look to maybe start to buy these closer to $1,000. But they've sort of bounced back, I think, to like $1,600. You see most of them selling for right now. So this book, a similar rarity. It's not as rare. But on Batman Adventures 12, I'm not even sure of the artists' names, and I probably should have looked that up. I always say that on these comparison videos, but I'm not. Whereas this one has the classic artist, has the cool classic cover, whereas Batman Adventures 12 is so like, yeah, it's the first appearance, yeah, it's a great book, but the cover is definitely love it or hate it. So there's a lot of reasons to sort of like this book over Batman Adventures 12, and it has a similar rarity, and when you compare it to other 90s like Marvel's books and stuff, the rarity sticks out with that 17.4% CGC 9.8 ratio. Like, First Carnage is like 28% CGC 9.8 ratio. Like, you really start to get up into the high 20s and 30s and 40s and 50% CGC 9.8 ratios in the 90s, so this is really an outlier. Along with Batman Adventures 12 too, so Batman Adventures 12 at $1,600, this book at $400. I think it's got a lot of catching up to do. Let's call it in between sort of here, maybe halfway between here and Deadpool price. So people are paying maybe $800 for Deadpool, first New Mutants 98s in the CGC 9.8, so maybe this can get up to like $600, $650. I think that's looking like a more normal price for this book. So, yep, I think it's undervalued. I mentioned that on all those other videos, and was looking to buy it, as I said on those videos, and yeah, so happy to kind of grab a really, really nice one. Although, I did, sort of have to pay those tariffs, which was a bit of a bummer, but, it's just money, I guess. So, I really am already really enjoying just having this cover, and, again, I'm really just a big fan of Bruce Timm, and this cover in general, like, Joker's looking so cool. Harley Quinn is like the classic Batman animated series look with Bruce Timm art, and clearly classic animated Batman as well. Another book I'll mention really quick is, brought it out too. Another really cool black cover. I didn't even take it out of the case, but Batman Harley Quinn. So this is the first appearance of Harley Quinn in DC continuity. Came out in 1999. So just wanted to bring this out because this book's around $300. I paid $290 for mine. I think, maybe even $275 now. I think it's sort of tailing off. It's a bit of a cold book, to be honest. But I think, these sort of used to be neck and neck, like about $300. They were about the same price. Now I think Mad Love is $375. This one's $275. So they're sort of going in opposite directions. And I think Mad Love has more potential to keep going in that higher direction, where this book will probably be about $300 for, I think, quite a while. Still so well collected, and maybe if, these keep heating up even more, given time, this will start bouncing off of $300. But I could see this being $300 for quite a while, around there anyway, and Mad Love, which used to be kind of $300 and is now $375, $400, most of the auctions I'm seeing, I think could continue on that trend. And as I said, if we split the difference between this, where it is now, and Deadpool, which New Mutants 98 is about $800. Yeah, I think $600 to $650 for Batman Adventures Mad Love, but man, you just get a great cover, and all the sort of pride of ownership elements with a comic like this are definitely present for me. and I'll be very happy to hold on with it. And yeah, long-term time horizon like I have too with this book, I think is going to be really, important. And if you do have a long-term time horizon, I think in 20 years, this thing is going to be looking good in the CGC 9.8 with not a lot of them out there in the 9.8 with that lower CGC 9.8 ratio. And yeah, I think 10 to 20 years out long-term, if you want to think then, I think this could be pushing $1,000 in the CGC 9.8 probably. Okay, yeah, so like I just said, I'm so excited to show this one. It did come from the States too, so it's one that's been like about a month, so that maybe has added to the excitement of me showing it. But a big key, yeah, such a big key. And, to be honest, I don't really have much of a temptation to grab a Batman Adventures 12. There was a bit of a temptation when the prices were getting close to $1,000, but now it's like 1,500, 1,600. Like, I don't know if I'm that big of a Harley Quinn fan, but I am a Harley Quinn fan and a Bruce Timm fan, and I love this cover, and it looks rare on the Census. So, when you put all that together, it just, I think was a great buy for me. So, alright, glad I could unbox it and show you guys. I just got it in yesterday, so if you haven't already, though, I'd invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Hit the bell for all the latest notifications. Add me on Instagram and Twitter as well. But yeah, wow, amazing book. Fits right into my collection, and one I am going to be looking at the next couple days. And yeah, with that black cover, it's one you just want to look at and admire how near mint it is. And that's what I think is one great thing about CGC 9.8 collecting. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the support. Message me on Instagram if you feel like you want to talk about whatever it might be. Yeah, send me a message on Instagram. Love to chat with the team about comics. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one.